What's up, YouTube? Today we are going to answer the questions, how much do I need to work out, and what is the ideal volume of sets I need to be doing to gain and maintain muscle? If that is important information to you, stick around to find out, and I promise I'll give you some direct answers after this brief introduction. There was a great video posted a few months back with Dr. Mike Israetel, who is a bodybuilder that has a PhD in sports physiology, and Dr. Brad Schoenfeld, who is a PhD professor at Lehman College in New York City, who is also as close to, if not the absolute authority on exercise science, having published more than 300 peer-reviewed scientific papers in the world's largest medical journals, as well as having his research cited in over 20,000 peer-reviewed papers related to resistance training and sports nutrition. It was a fascinating conversation that lasted more than 20 minutes, but today, I am going to break down only the most important information from the dialogue in easy to understand layman's terms without the scientific jargon that may make the average person feel overwhelmed. Okay, here is a direct answer, just like I promised. First, we'll focus on building muscle, not maintaining, but really focusing on building. If you are a pretty advanced lifter who has already been consistently training for a few years and want to build maximum muscle, the answer, according to the overwhelming majority of the research, the data, and the literature, is...
The literature suggests that somewhere between 10 to 20 sets per week, per muscle per week, is a good guideline for how many sets to do.
Okay, 10 to 20 working sets per muscle group per week, with working sets in this context being defined as hard sets being done to or near failure, excluding warm-up sets. If you are new to lifting, or someone who trains infrequently or sporadically at best, and wanted to jump in and start making some consistent gains, the literature states you can actually make some solid progress for a period of time with as little as 5 to 10 working sets per week. Stick around to learn the volume of sets necessary to simply maintain the muscle you have already built. And I promise you, it will shock you, because it absolutely shocked me. But let's go a bit deeper on muscle building first. In fairness, Dr. Schoenfeld himself calls that answer imperfect, and here's why. He says we can break the body down into 10 muscle groups.
We can agree that there are, let's say, 10 major muscle groups. You have your biceps, triceps, chest, shoulders, back, quads, hamstrings, glutes, calves, and abs. Mm-hmm.
The reason he states that it is imperfect is because nearly all studies to date have mostly looked at the muscle groups individually. So this study here was on just shoulders, and this one there was on just chest or hamstrings. There's never really been a study that looks at all 10 muscle groups together in one massive study and looks at the systemic effects of that volume of training on hypertrophy as a whole. If we did the lowest side, which is 10 sets per muscle group per week, that would be 10 sets times 10 muscle groups, so a total weekly training volume of only 100 sets. Dr. Brad himself says that feels too low to him. However, if we did the high side of 20 sets for each muscle group times 10 groups, that would be 200 total sets for the week. Is that too much overall systemic volume for the average person? He believes it could be. Unfortunately, it would be really difficult to design a study of that size and complexity. He does, however, discuss a potential volume program that I loved. Let's take the middle ground between 10 sets per muscle group per week, which would be 100 total sets, and 20 sets per muscle group per week, which would be 200 sets. That number would be 150 weekly sets. Now let's treat that 150 weekly sets like a budget, the same way you would treat your finances. In your finance budget, you have this much money per month set aside for rent, and this much money per month for food, but here you have 150 sets to allocate to muscle groups. If you're a female, the majority of women like to focus on lower body training to build well-developed glutes and hamstrings and quads. You may allocate 60 sets to glutes, hamstrings, and quads alone, leaving you with 90 sets to disperse amongst the other 7 muscle groups. Or if you're a guy who is very arm dominant today, but you have a chest that is lagging behind your arms and some chicken legs from years of skipping leg day.
Do you know you're supposed to work out your lower body too?
You may want to allocate a much larger portion of your set budget to chest and legs at the expense of some weekly arm sets, so that your lagging body parts can catch up to your dominant features. Another interesting aspect he discusses is hyper-responders versus poor responders. We all know those annoying hyper-responders, right? That friend we have who can start going to the gym or even just doing some push-ups every day, and boom, 2 weeks later, they have visual body changes and arms of steel. And then all of us also know, or unfortunately maybe ourselves, poor responders. We've been going to the gym twice as long and working 2 times as hard as that hyper-responder, yet we've seen 50% or less the results. Well, Dr. Schoenfeld discusses another super interesting study that accounts for this, using a within-subject study design. Here they took the same individuals and had them do high volume training for one of their quad muscles and low volume training for the other one of their quad muscles. This way they are neutralizing all other aspects of muscle building, such as quality of sleep, quality of nutrition, genetics, since they're using the same person to measure the different stimulus response. In just about 50% of the study participants, they saw the same or nearly identical muscle growth between the high volume leg and the low volume leg. Yet in the other 50% of participants, they saw significantly more muscle development in the high volume leg than they did the low volume leg. However, once they brought that low volume leg up to the same volume as the high volume leg, muscle development in the lagging leg did catch up to the high volume. This indicates that assuming all other things like sleep and overall protein intake and nutrition are dialed in, the volume needed will vary by person. But even if you are a poor responder, you can make up the difference with hard work and more sets. Finally, let's address the direct answer to the question of simply maintaining muscle. If you were not looking to really build new muscle and you were either happy with the muscle volume that you've already previously built, or you had a recent life change such as maybe a new job or the birth of a new baby that doesn't allow you the time you used to have to focus on new muscle building, but you want to make sure that you keep the muscle you already have while figuring out the new schedule, the research, the studies, the literature, it all indicates that you can do that on potentially as low as 1/9 the training volume it takes to build muscle. Young people can maintain all of their previous muscle mass on as little as 3 to 5 sets per week. And older folks, defined here by Dr. Schoenfeld as 50 to 60 plus years old, can maintain all their current muscle mass on as little as 5 to 10 sets per week. That actually blew my mind, and is great data for people on body recomposition or cutting programs, as the idea with cutting programs is usually to preserve as much, if not all, the muscle mass you currently have, while stripping away the body fat to better reveal and accentuate the muscle. This would indicate that you can maintain muscle even with significantly decreasing working sets, assuming adequate protein intake, which should provide you more time to potentially focus on something like low intensity steady state cardio, while also allowing you to cut back on hunger, since high set volume usually is directly correlated to increased appetite, making it easier for you to stay in a calorie deficit, which is necessary for cutting and recomping. Interesting stuff. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.